Wow, I was not kidding when I said that it had been a while. While this kind of little video introduction to the restart of my channel was uploading, I was actually watching the last video that I uploaded. The upload date on that video, you guys, was March 4th of 2021. So it has literally been over 2 years since I last updated, and I apologize. I never, ever, 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 ever intended to take that long of a YouTube break, but things transpired. When I left you guys, I was talking about how I was sitting in an empty master bedroom of my husband and I's first apartment in 6 years where we weren't living with family. That was our first home, completely on our own, financed on our own. We didn't have to ask anybody to co-sign for anything, nothing of that sort, which was fantastic because prior to that, we were either living with my parents, or when I say my parents, at this point, I mean my mom and my stepdad, who live out in Woodstock, Illinois, or we were living with my mother-in-law and my brother-in-law, who lived in Green Bay, Wisconsin. So we had moved from Green Bay, Wisconsin, living with my mother-in-law and brother-in-law, so my husband's mom and brother. And in that house, my husband and myself, our bedroom was in the basement. The basement was actually big enough that we had originally separated it out, or sectioned it off rather, so that my husband and I had a bedroom and our daughter had a bedroom. But my daughter, or our daughter, for some reason I keep saying it's just a force of habit, but our daughter, for whatever reason, she didn't like sleeping in the basement. She said it felt dank and dreary, so she actually moved upstairs and was sharing a bedroom with my mother-in-law. Okay, fine. So when I had finally had enough, I was done being basically his family's saving grace, because his family, I love them to death. I really, really do. And this is not going to be a video where I'm going to sit here and bash my in-laws. It's nothing like that. But his family, financially, especially his mom and his brother, when it comes to their finances, they don't do the best at managing. And so it felt as though my husband and I were financially supporting 5 people. It was the 3 of us, so my husband, myself, our daughter, my mother-in-law, and his brother. So my brother-in-law, my mother-in-law, and we had a cat at the time. So I looked at my husband and I said, we need to do something, because at this point, we're paying for electric, we're paying for internet. We are the ones paying for all the streaming services, and yes, every streaming service that is out, you can bet your sweet patootie we own it or have a subscription to it. We have Amazon, we have Netflix, we have Hulu, we have Disney Plus, we have Discovery Plus. We even, I think my husband, if I'm not mistaken, my husband has a PlayStation Plus account. So, and at the time, I had an Audible subscription that I was paying for. I'll get to that in a little while, so just hang tight. But we were paying for the electric for the house. We were paying for the internet for the house. We were paying for all the streaming services that everybody was using. Shoot, for a little bit, my husband and I were paying for 4 cell phone lines, because we thought it would be cheaper in the long run, and it would help everybody out if we were all on the same phone plan. So we actually added my mother-in-law and brother-in-law to our phone plan, and we're paying for cell phones for 4 adults. Not doing that anymore, don't worry. But and at the time, my husband was door dashing while I was working in the medical field as a caregiver and then eventually a med tech. So somebody who goes into assisted living facilities and or nursing homes and administers medication to the residents. And this, mind you, when we moved from East De Pere to Green Bay, it was 2019. So the pandemic hadn't hit yet. But then in 2020, the pandemic hit. And I remember my daughter, when the schools decided that they were going, when the district decided that it was going to close the schools, the kids were on spring break. So she actually had a very extended spring break. And then when school started back up the following year, we decided that because I was working full-time in the medical field, I didn't want to be one of those parents that if, God forbid, knock on wood, or my car, because I'm sitting in my car recording this, God forbid I bring COVID home and she gets it. I don't want to be that mother that inadvertently, accidentally sent COVID to the school. So my husband and I made the decision to put her in a virtual public school. So that's what we did. She was attending online Wisconsin Connections Academy. That wasn't panning out so hot. And then we got the opportunity, we were making enough money that we got the opportunity to move out on our own. So my husband, myself, our daughter, and our cat moved from Green Bay to West De Pere. So yes, Green Bay and De Pere, they're large enough towns that they split them up. There's an east side and a west side. So we actually moved, in 2019, we moved from East De Pere to Green Bay. And then in 2021, we moved from Green Bay to West De Pere. And that, when we were in West De Pere, that was the apartment that I was filming the videos in. That was where we were when I recorded my last video. And that was back in March of 2021. So you guys, we were in that apartment for a good 2.5 months before my husband and I finally had all of our furniture and belongings out of my mother-in-law's house. And when I say furniture and belongings, I mean all of my daughter's toys, clothes, dressers, my bookshelves, dishes. Because, my husband would go periodically, he would go to his mom's house and grab stuff, but he wasn't grabbing, what we needed. These were things that I spent time to collect and money in some cases to acquire, and it was just getting left. And we even had, when I say we were supporting my mother-in-law and brother-in-law, not only were my husband and I paying for the cell phone bills, the electricity, the internet, and all the streaming services, we were also doing rent-to-own contracts for furniture and a washer and dryer with like a Rent-A-Center type situation. It was called Lee Bakkens. But we had did a rent-to-own situation on a high efficiency, what's the word I'm looking for here? High efficiency, high capacity washer and dryer. Because the washer and dryers that we had in De Pere, when we moved them to Green Bay, they started to go on the fritz. So we needed a new washer and dryer. So my husband and I went and got a set from this rent-to-own place, and we were making payments on it. Then my mother-in-law was like, well, I want new living room furniture for the upstairs. Okay, I can understand that. The furniture that we had up there at the time was wearing thin, and it wasn't a complete set. So she initially, that contract was in her name, but again, same situation as before. My husband and I took over the payments for that. So all that furniture, that whole living room set, became ours, and it was a couch, a love seat, 2 end tables, 2 lamps, and an area rug. That whole set, plus the washer and dryer, we were paying for. We were paying for all of that. My mother-in-law, I don't think, was helping to pay for any of it. Neither was her son. Her son is a whole different ballgame. I will get into that who knows when. But anyway, so, we moved out. It was a good 2 months that we were there before anything that was ours was over actually at our house. So our furniture, our washer, dryer. But eventually, we did save up enough money after paying all of our bills to hire a moving company to get our big bulky furniture items and all of the rest of our stuff from my mother-in-law's house. Okay, so we're all situated. We're, doing our thing. I'm working at this assisted living facility. It was, where was I at the time? I believe when I left off, I was working at Empowerment Options. So I was at Empowerment Options for a flippin' week, you guys. A week. Empowerment Options was an adult family home in Green Bay, Wisconsin. So basically, not as big as a CBRF, which is a community-based assisted living, or a community-based residential facility, assisted living facility. And it was an AFH, which is an adult family home. So it's basically a regular old run-of-the-mill house in a random neighborhood. I was there for a week, and I was literally getting ready to walk out the door to get in the car to go to work. And the owner of the company calls me and goes, we're letting you go because we don't think you understand resident rights. No, here's what they don't understand. They don't understand that no resident has the right to physically assault you in any way, shape, or form. Just as you don't have the right to put your hands on them, they don't have the right to put their hands on you. And so I was fired because I refused to let this resident smack me in the face, punch me in the back, and then try and kick me. So I left there, and then I worked at Walgreens for a little bit. And I worked at Walgreens from March of 2021 till November 2021. So right before Thanksgiving is when I left Walgreens. And I left Walgreens because they had an employee there, so a coworker of mine, who was very explicit in the way that he spoke to me, both when there wasn't customers around and when there was. I'll never forget this. It was a Friday night. So, and on Friday nights, the Walgreens that I worked at didn't close. Well, they closed early at 9 o'clock, and then staff that was scheduled to close the store was actually there until 10:30 that night to basically what we did for that half hour is we faced shelves, we took down old sale tags, so those stickers that are stuck to the shelf in front of the product that tells you how much the stickers are, or the product is. We took the old tags down, we put the new ones up. Price changes, basically. And we stocked product. If we had product that had to go out to the floor, we stocked product, because that following Saturday and Sunday, we were getting trucks. We were getting new stock. But there was one night, it was about 8:30, so we had about a half hour left, maybe 45 minutes. I don't remember how much time was left in the shift for customers' sake, but I was over on Register 2 because Register 1 was being counted down. So I was over on Register 2, and Register 1, kind of, when you're looking out, you can see the store. It's facing the aisles, so you can see customers in the aisles, and there's a mirror up on the ceiling, so you can see there's customers in the aisle in the back of the store. Register 2 is facing all the cigarettes. So I was on Register 2, and there was this group of kids that came in. I mean, kids, young adults. I'm guessing like late teens, early 20s. There's a group of like 5 or 6 of them. And they're all guys. Well, and they're in the aisle where we kept like prophylactics and Plan B and, birth control and all that stuff. And in front of customers, I had a line of customers. I think it was like a group of 4 or 5 maybe, but they were all together. And he literally said, not loud enough for the customers that were in the aisle to hear, but loud enough that not only did I hear it, but the customers that I was waiting on heard it. And he says, hey guys, hurry up and get your condoms, and Elizabeth will show you how to use them. And y'all, when I say I turned like 50 shades of beet red, I turned 50 shades of beet red. I mean, and I'm like trying not to say anything because I've got customers, that I'm working with. And and I remember one of the customers, she looks at me and she goes, "Are you okay?" And I said, "I will be, but that was very inappropriate and I'm embarrassed." And she goes, "You're handling this a lot better than I would have. If that were me, I would have said something right then and there." And I said, that just makes him feel like the bigger person, and I don't want to do that. So after the customers left and the store closed, I pulled the manager in the back and I told her what was going on. And she reported it to the manager above her, so the store manager. But he did nothing about it. And then I even made the call to corporate, and I told corporate what was going on or what had happened, and they did nothing about it. And apparently this coworker, this wasn't his first rodeo working with and having issues with making inappropriate comments to coworkers, but yet they still chose to hire him back. So I quit. I had 2 days off, before Thanksgiving, and I called my manager when I was scheduled to go in, because I always like when stores have schedule apps so that their employees can see their schedules on their phones. So I called my manager. I called the store, talked to the manager. I said, "Here's what's going on. I don't feel comfortable working with this person. He's scheduled to work my next shift the same time slot, so with a 3 to 10 time slot. I don't feel comfortable working with him, and unless you're going to fire him for what he said to me, because it was said in front of customers, then I am done." And they weren't going to let him go, so I quit. And then that was the day before Thanksgiving, 2021. So that was that. Then after working with Walgreens, then I went to Home Instead Senior Care. I figured, you know what, my passion has always been for the healthcare industry. let's go back to that and do what I know and do what I love. So I went to Home Instead. Everything was going great. I loved them. They were like the best company ever. Like, if I could find a branch, a Home Instead branch to work at where I'm at right now, I'd be doing it. In a fucking heartbeat, y'all. In a fucking heartbeat, I would be working with Home Instead again because I loved that company so much. I left Home Instead because, so if you've seen commercials for Home Instead, you know that it's an in-home health agency. They come in and they help members of their senior communities live well and stay safe in their own homes. So I was going to these residents' home, or these clients' homes. They're not residents, they're clients. I was going to these clients' homes and basically helping with laundry, light housekeeping, meal preparation, med reminders, because we weren't allowed to administer medication. In fact, we weren't even allowed to wear scrubs because we weren't providing health care. Yeah, we weren't allowed to wear scrubs because we weren't medical personnel is how the company termed it. But I got an allowance from my company to wear scrubs because I'm one of those people that if it is in my job description that I help the client shower and bathe, I don't want to ruin my regular everyday clothing when I already own scrubs because I worked in a facility. That is what scrubs are for. Scrubs are meant to get dirty. They're made of water-resistant material. So yes, they're gonna get wet, but they're not gonna stay wet very long. But Home Instead didn't allow their staff members to wear them. So anyways, but I was going and doing these scheduled shifts at these clients. I loved them to death. They were very sweet. But because of my size, I am only 4'11" tall, so just under 5 feet. So because of my size, I had clients calling the office saying, "We don't think she can do the job." So they would pull me from the client, and my office would call me and be like, "Hey, client so-and-so said they didn't think you were a good fit, so we've pulled you from them, yada, yada, yada." There was one client that I actually said, "Nope, I'm not going to go and do this one," because while I could do it, it was in their care plan that they helped assist me care for them. And this one client was refusing to assist me in caring for her. And she wasn't allowing me to clean up her space enough so that I could prepare her meals. And she was doing things in her own time. And even while staff were in her apartment that were reckless and could have very easily gone very wrong. There was a couple of shifts that we, when I worked with her, she wanted to go to, I think she wanted to go to the gas station. She wanted to go to the gas station to go to an ATM and get money out for something. And this gas station was a good 2-3 mile walk from her home. She lived in one of those like senior apartment buildings or low income disabled housing apartment buildings. And I actually, when I called my manager about it the one day, I said, am I supposed to go with her? And they said, no, you absolutely do not have to go with her. If she's choosing to go on this little outing, you can stay at the building. You don't have to go. So I wasn't going with her. I went with her the first couple times, but after the third or fourth time, I was like, it was cold, y'all. Like, it was still, like, there was still ice on the ground. So luckily I had my Yak tracks, which cute little items that my company gave all of their staff because it was winter. Look like snow tires for your shoes. They were awesome, and I wish I still had them because even though they're not good to wear on regular floor or rug, when you're outside walking around on uneven terrain, they help a lot. But so I left her and I said, I don't feel safe caring for her because she's not being compliant with the care plan that the company has laid out. So I basically left them and I decided to go back to school. I actually made a very long Facebook post about this not that long ago. The other day, actually. I enrolled in June, so I was with them from March to June of 2022. And in June of 2022, actually May of 2022, I made the decision to go back to school and continue my education. I felt like I needed to get a job in the medical field where it wasn't just a job. I wanted a job that was going to eventually turn into a career. And I knew that in order to do that, I needed a degree. So I chose to go back to school and go and attend Ultimate Medical Academy. I am very, 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 very happy to report that I will be graduating from Ultimate Medical Academy in October 23rd, actually, is my graduation date. October 23rd, I will be a graduate of Ultimate Medical Academy with an associate's degree in medical administrative assisting. I have been on either the dean's list or the honor roll my entire time, so the entire year and a half that I have been at Ultimate Medical Academy, I've been either on the dean's list or the honor roll. And I did all of this it's all online, so I have a laptop that I have been working from to do all of my schoolwork. In December of 2020, and yes, I'm jumping back and forth, but you'll understand why in a minute. So in December of 2021, my husband came down with COVID. And he came down with such a severe case that he was hospitalized for 5 days. Because I couldn't go to work and my daughter couldn't go to school, my daughter couldn't go to school because there was a parent in the house that was in the hospital with COVID. I couldn't go to work because A, I couldn't drive, and B, I didn't have anybody to watch my daughter. So the company that I was actually working for at the time let me go because my husband had COVID. Even though, once he was all said and, ready to come back, and I had gone and gotten my COVID test, and it had faxed, my company the results of my negative test, they still chose to fire me. So that is part of what prompted the decision for me to go back to school. And I'm so glad I did, because it's paying off, and it's paying off big time. My daughter celebrated her 10th, 11th, and 12th birthdays living in that apartment. We were nice enough to take in my mother-in-law and brother-in-law and my mother-in-law's boyfriend after they got evicted from their home, and taking them in essentially screwed us over because COVID and taking them in actually screwed us over, because when my husband came down with COVID and then I came down with COVID, we weren't able to go to work, which meant that we fell behind on bills. And you'll notice the lighting change, and that's because it's getting darker out here, y'all. I'm sorry, I'm just making sure that my husband turned on the porch light. So in September of 2022, literally, I kid you not, I can't make this stuff up if I tried. 2 days before we were set to host my daughter's 12th birthday party, I had a Brown County sheriff come to my door and serve my husband and I with court paperwork to go to court for possible eviction, for non-payment of rent. Now, mind you, we were paying rent, but because we had to break it up into like half or quarter the amount so that we could make other bill payments on time, like water, electricity, internet, things we needed for the house to function. And I needed internet for school, so I don't want people coming at me saying, well, internet's not a need, that's more of a want. No, it becomes a need when you're using the internet as a means to go to school. Oh, and yeah, also at the same time, while all this is going on, my daughter is again doing online public school from home because of bullying that she experienced while going to the public school system. And the school was doing nothing about it. The school was so freaking lazy about all this, y'all, that even though my husband and I were communicating back and forth via phone conversations and emails with the vice principal and the guidance counselor, the principal himself had no idea what was going on until I called him the day before I pulled my daughter out of school. She was being bullied so bad that she was literally skipping school. She was literally telling me that she was so sick she couldn't go to school. And the school did nothing about it. So, and as everybody knows, students who are bullied, if nothing is done about it to make the student feel safe, those are the students that turn out to be the school shooters. And I wasn't about to have my child later on down the road become a school shooter because she's being bullied and nobody's listening to her. I made Facebook posts about what was going on with my daughter. So we pulled her out. We put her back in the K-12 program, and she was going to Wisconsin Virtual Academy. not Connections, but Virtual Academy, and she's doing fantastic. And then at one point she had made the choice. She wanted to try and go back to regular school. And my husband and I said, okay, on one condition. We will put you back in regular school, but you have to tell me and your dad the minute something happens that is wrong. Y'all, I am under the impression, because of how my daughter acts around men that are not her father, that she may have been sexually assaulted at school. But she's not coming forward and saying that she was, or if she was, who did it and when. And my husband and I are not the only ones to have had this thought. My sister-in-law brought it to my attention once. My biological dad and my stepmom brought it to my attention once. She just hasn't come forward and said that, yes, that somebody did touch me inappropriately. So I can't go around saying that she was. But I believe that she was, because of how she acts around men that are not her father or her uncle. So we ended up getting evicted. And when I say evicted, I mean evicted. I literally it was Christmas. It was a week before Christmas. And we'd gone to court. We were making payments. But like I said, the payments weren't coming in quick enough for her. So again, a week before Christmas, deputy shows up. And this time it's with a full-blown, you have 5 days to vacate. And this was before Christmas. And my husband, I called my husband in tears with the eviction notice in my hand, because the deputy was going to post it to the door. And I'm like, I don't need, the public seeing that, there's an eviction happening. So I'm very sorry, y'all, that's getting dark, but like I said, I'm sitting in my car. I literally called my husband in tears. I said, I don't know what the hell we're going to do. We ended up going to and staying in hotels. At this point, my husband is no longer, doing DoorDash. He's actually driving for a medical transport company, or an NEMT, which is non-emergency medical transportation. So that these are the companies, like Medivan companies, where they pick people up and they take them to and from their doctor's appointments. That's what he was doing. So we were in hotels for a little bit. My daughter actually suffered a health emergency. She had an ovarian cyst that had to be removed. She does have ovarian cysts. It's not known. We don't know yet whether or not she does in fact have endometriosis, but there is a history of that in my family. So while we're living in hotels, my daughter's having all this pain, and it came out that she had an ovarian cyst. She had the cyst removed in January. 2 weeks later, my husband and my daughter and our cats were on the road to North Carolina. We spent a couple of months in North Carolina living with my dad and my stepmom. My husband and I were driving for Amazon Flex. My daughter was going to a public school system. I was working part-time at Kohl's. When I wasn't working at Kohl's and we didn't have Flex runs, we were doing Instacart. But my stepmother liked to overstep her boundaries and wanted control of our bank accounts, wanted control of our credit history, everything. We were not allowed to basically... She had us get rid of our our cell phone service that we had. We had Boost Mobile. She made us get rid of that, put us on their AT&T phone plan, and then had us install on our phones this Life 360 app, which, by the way, I fucking hate. I hate and will not recommend to anybody Life 360. It is nothing more than a way for people to stalk you, because it shows you in real time where the members of your circle are and for how long they're there. And if they're driving, it shows you where they're going, and it shows you how fast they're going, and yada, yada, yada. Dude, my stepmother, there were days where we would come home from Amazon Flex runs and she would ask, hey, are you going out to eat? And are you stopping to eat? And it finally, I don't remember what day it was, but it finally clicked. I said, oh my God, she's watching us on Life 360. She can see when we stop at a gas station. Mind you, we were stopping at the gas stations because we would go to the Amazon fulfillment center, pick up our run of packages, then stop at the gas station and organize our packages and fill the car up with gas, and then go and do our run our block. But she was tracking us with that, y'all. So I don't condone or recommend Life 360 to anybody, unless you want to be a nosy bitch. But I don't recommend it for anybody. So we finally had enough. Like, she was overstepping with my daughter. I'm one of those parents that, I'm turning on the light just so that it's a little bit lighter in here. I'm one of those parents that, because growing up, I was punished with spankings and stuff that today would be considered child abuse. I don't do that type of punishment with our daughter, and neither does my husband. And for the same reason. And my stepmom wanted us to revert to that punishment style with our daughter. So, and she also wanted us to send our daughter to school with a freaking fever. Okay, mind you, you can't do that. Like, the school was literally calling us and saying, you need to come get your kid. She can't be here because of the fever. So we said we finally had enough, and we left, loaded up the car with everything we came down to North Carolina with, and we drove 9.5 hours from Franklinton, North Carolina, down to Catawba, Kentucky, which is BFE, Kentucky, middle of nowhere. Like, there's literally nothing around. And that's where we're at now. When I say I'm sitting in the car recording, I'm sitting in the car recording, y'all. There's nothing. My husband and I are sleeping on a mattress and box spring in the hallway. My daughter is sleeping on the couch. My brother-in-law has a bedroom, and then my mother-in-law and her boyfriend have a bedroom. But that's my life update. So there you go. Again, I'm like I've said in the past, I'm an open book. If you've got any questions, put them in the community tab, or you can message me on either Facebook. If you look up Bethann Preuss, so Bethann, all one word, Preuss, P as in Paul, Reu, S as in Sam, S as in Sam. It's my last name. Or I believe my Instagram is Elizabeth.Preuss5. You can message me there. I will happily answer any questions you guys have, but that is going to be it. I will see you guys probably tomorrow for my next video.